We'll be together at the Mather Place, 2801 Old Glenview Road in Wilmette. Everyone who's attended the service is welcome to join. And officiating our services today is Rabbi Michael Davis.
Dear family and friends, we gather to mark the passing, mourn the passing, and celebrate the many loves and relationships and legacy of Dr. Melvin Seglin. We begin with an ancient prayer, a text that has given comfort to countless generations and still does, perhaps the most beloved of all the Hebrew Psalms and the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, the 23rd Psalm. You'll have it in the handouts that you received as we gathered, the first of the three prayers that we'll say today. At the end, we'll say the Al Male, and then finally conclude with the Kaddish. But we begin with the 23rd Psalm, which I will chant in the traditional original Hebrew, and I invite you to take in these sounds as prayers of comfort. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, b'ino deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenahaleini. Nafshi yeshovev, nafshi yeshovev, yancheni v'maglei tzedek, ay leman shemo. Kam ki elech Begeitz al mavet, lo irara, ki ata imadi, she'yevtecha, umishantecha, Shivtecha umishantecha, Hema yenachamoni, Taroch lefanai shulchan, Neged tzorerai, Dishanta vashemen roshi, Kosi revaya. Ach tov achevesed, yirdefuni, kol yemei chayai, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Let us read together the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And I want to note that the Hebrew for forever, those last words, which I chanted just before, is le'orech yamim, which means literally for the length of days. And we're certainly celebrating the blessings of longevity in good health, right? You want both. And just noting the picture here from Thanksgiving, the birthday picture, and we're able to enjoy that and enjoy everybody's company. And I was just thinking about those. I recognize that style of balloon that you get from lots of places, the dollar store. And I've seen the 8, I've seen the 9, but only as a second digit. I haven't seen like a 9 followed by an 8. That's remarkable, a 98th. But to celebrate so beautifully, and they could enjoy that with you and you him. So let's take a few moments, if you like, of silence for private prayers, reflections, memories. Let's take a few moments of silence together. Let us hold up each other's prayers and sweet memories with a prayer for peace. You can find that at the end of the Kaddish on the back panel. In the English, it's the last 2.5 lines, beginning with that big capital O. If you're reading in the Hebrew, it's the last 2 lines, or Seh Shalom. I invite you to join together in song. So I like to say, if you know it, please sing out loud. And if you don't, just fake it along with everybody else. And I'll lead you. Oseh shalom bimroma, v'hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 So we're going to hear some words of memory and sweetness from David and Susan. I think, David, you're ready to come up?
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you all for coming. It means a lot to us. We appreciate it. When I was going through some of Melvin's files this past week, I came across something he wrote a while ago, and I don't remember hearing it. I don't remember reading it, but it seems like it was for an event, perhaps a wedding anniversary of some kind, a significant anniversary. So I'll start by reading that. The year was 1945. I had recently been discharged from the Army Air Force and enrolled as a pre-medical student at the University of Illinois in Urbana. During one weekend, I visited my high school prom date, who was now at the University of Chicago. Although she was now involved in another relationship, we were still friends. I met her attractive roommate, Natalie, who came from Cleveland, Ohio. Our contact was brief but unforgettable. I returned to the U of I to complete my pre-medical program. The year was now 1949. I was now a second-year medical student at the University of Illinois Medical School in Chicago. I frequently attended concerts at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra Hall, and one evening during the intermission, I saw Natalie at a distance in the lobby. I did not make contact with her, but decided I would like to enter into a relationship with her. There are going to be a few laughs, okay? So feel free. However, there was a problem. I didn't remember her last name. Two of my classmates at school had attended the University of Chicago pre-medical program. I told them about the incident at Orchestra Hall and that I had seen a young lady in the lobby whose first name I remembered as Natalie, but I did not know her last name. Could one of them help me? I described her as a natural blonde, which would make an identity easier. By a stroke of good fortune, one or both of them knew her and knew her last name, which they shared with me. I contacted her, started dating, but she was ambivalent about considering marriage with me. I felt the proposal might be a hopeless situation. School vacation period occurred and Natalie went home to Cleveland. By another stroke of good luck and fortune, I received state funds for veterans of World War II, purchased railroad tickets, and visited Natalie and her family in Cleveland, where I proposed marriage. Natalie was still ambivalent, but was persuaded by her mother to accept the proposal, which I made with one condition. I would marry only if I passed the qualification examination required for completion of the last 2 years of medical school. I received a passing grade, and the rest is history. There's been a lot of history since then, and Melvin conveniently avoided stating that, but I'll try and summarize it in broad strokes. Melvin was a complicated man. He loved his family, but didn't often say it out loud. He was a very trusting person, which sometimes got him into trouble. He could be stubborn, generous, and also frugal. He established a private practice in psychiatry in 1955, focusing on adult, adolescent, and forensic psychiatry, and was on the staff at Michael Reese Hospital as well as several other hospitals. Later in his career, he became involved with a substance abuse treatment center in Racine, Wisconsin, as the medical director, and also consulted professionally with the Circuit Court of Cook County and the Illinois Department of Corrections in various locations. Melvin loved the arts. He loved music, both classical and folk music. He loved the opera and theater. He listened to WFMT radio for the classics, and also their Saturday evening program called The Midnight Special, which featured folk music and comedy by Mike Nichols and Elaine May, among others. He had a vast collection of classical albums, tapes, and CDs, which he played through his hi-fi stereo, though never quite being able to rid the constant low-frequency hum of the speakers, which drove my mother crazy. He and my mother traveled the country and the world. They loved art, architecture, and history. Melvin documented these trips with thousands of photographic slides and home movies. On one of their early trips to Europe, when my sister and I were young, Melvin returned with a beard, something I remember not being happy about at all. He went off to the local barbershop to have it removed, but it wasn't long after then that the beard became a permanent fixture. Melvin had a special relationship with cars, and that they sometimes tended to break down or crash in his presence. His first car that I remember was a two-door Peugeot that was always breaking down. I remember one night when I was young riding the back seat with Melvin driving, and he asked me if I was still back there. With that question, I became fearful, thinking that at any moment the car could split in two, with me strapped in the back, slowly coasting to a halt on the street, while Melvin drove away in the front half, never knowing that I was not still back there. One afternoon, Melvin, my sister, and I were returning from Crystal Lake, where his family had a tar paper summer cabin that we would visit, and we were caught in a tremendous thunderstorm. The Peugeot stalled, and Melvin left the two of us in the back seat while he went in search of a gas station that could get us going again. He came back with help, and we were again on our way home, only for him to be admonished by my mother for leaving the two of us alone in the car while he searched for help. There were other car trips back then, back and forth to Colorado or the West Coast, where the now larger Buick station wagon's alignment would need to be repaired along the way, or the alternator went bad, or another time on New Year's Eve when the tires slowly disintegrated in the middle of Nebraska, requiring us to limp along the highway shoulder way past midnight to find a motel for the night. Melvin once drove from Chicago to Seattle alone to meet the rest of us for a family gathering. He set up his video recording camera to look out the front windshield to document the entire trip. Who wouldn't want to watch this, I'm sure he thought. Nobody did. But Melvin was generous with his cars, allowing me to drive them to and from Colorado with a friend or college roommate for ski trips during winter break from college. I never took advantage of this generosity and always returned the car in one piece, although there may have been a close call or two. Melvin lived independently well into his 90s. He was 95 when he drove to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get his driver's license renewed. He fell down in the parking lot, breaking his pelvis for a second time, and wound up in the hospital. Visiting him there, I told him if he injured or killed someone while driving, it would be a tragedy. But if he killed himself, it would only be too bad. But this was our opportunity to take the car away and relocate to an assisted living facility where we could feel confident he could get the care and attention he still said he did not need. In his advanced age, when anyone asked how he was, he would respond with a laugh as good as could be expected. When told it was good to see him, he'd say, "It's good to be seen." As I said, Melvin loved his family. He always referred to his sister Arlene, 10 years younger than he, as his baby sister. He loved his granddaughter Lily and told her so. He was interested in the volunteer work I was doing in retirement. And every time I saw him or spoke with him on the phone, occasionally in a heated conversation, we'd always end the conversation by saying, "Regards to Barb." I was speaking to Arlene yesterday, and she ended the conversation, "Give my regards to Barb." I guess it's a family trait. Lisa, do you say that? Okay. Okay. Before he relocated to Mather, his apartment was filled with plants that he kept alive. 5 or 6 of these plants were 4 to 5 feet tall. We gave these tall potted plants to several of our friends, and these plants have come to known among us all as Melvins. These Melvins continue to grow and thrive, and we get photos from our friends when there are new leaves or flowers. Remember this, Melvin had a long life. The family car trips where he earned the name Smelvin, the ski trips to Colorado where my sister and I called the ice crystals forming on his beard mucusicles. We had season tickets to the Bears games when I was in high school. He learned to fly single-engine airplanes. He purchased a small condominium in Snowmass, Colorado in 1968. And as a result of that, our family still has a presence in that community to this day. And we had a great 98th birthday party celebration with most of the family on his birthday 6 weeks ago. He was present and in the moment the entire time. The pictures from that event summarize the rest of Melvin's history. People who knew him tell me he was a good man, and that's how we'll remember him. Thank you.
David and I didn't share what we were going to talk about, but there's some overlap. My dad was an eccentric guy. He was stubbornly independent and challenging at times. He was also sweet, able to laugh easily, and easygoing. He loved music and fostered my love of music, musicals, classical music, and especially folk music. When we were kids, he took us to the U of C Folk Festival. He recorded his favorite radio show, The Midnight Special, which played on WFMT. It was a show of folk music and comedy. We listened to those tapes on our family ski trips where there was no TV while we played board games. It was a lot of fun. We watched the Smothers Brothers TV show together, which he loved. He briefly took guitar lessons and learned to play a few folk songs. He had a good singing voice and a nice speaking voice. As I got older, I stayed up late with him to listen to the Midnight Special in his study. He introduced me to Steve Goodman and John Prine. When I was in high school, I took him to the old Amazing Grace Coffee House on the Northwestern campus, and he sat on the floor with the kids to listen to the folk music. Last fall, he was hospitalized, and when he was feeling a little better, I brought him an MP3 player with music I thought he'd enjoy. When he heard the folk songs, he started bopping his head, singing along, and saying, "I can't sit still to this music." He kept asking me how all that music was in a little device and showed it to all his nurses, sure that they weren't aware of this marvelous thing. It gave me great pleasure to give him something he enjoyed so much. He was easy to please. This was our bond, and I'll miss listening to music and laughing at comedy routines with him.
Thank you. So we've heard about Mel's love of music, folk music from we both. And there's a traditional text that we say at times like this, Ecclesiastes chapter 2. There's a time for all things under heaven, particularly when it's just time, right? It's profound, but time had come. So what better in Mel's honor than to do the traditional text to folk music? And I said this is one that he loved by Pete Seeger, and feel free to join in. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. For everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to reign, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. We say of a good life well lived, Yehi Zichro Baruch, may his memory be for a blessing. And there is a one-line text from the book of Psalms that is lifted up as liturgy, as the introduction to Kol Nidre, the holiest night of the Jewish year, Yom Kippur. And this one line says, Or Zarua la Tzadik, a great light lies in store for the righteous, and for the pure of heart there is joy. It's a mystical approximation of what we perhaps feel but can't know, that a life well lived, in the doing, there is joy. In the living our lives well, there is a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. And yet, when we do those good deeds, when we live well, as Mel did, there are blessings that follow that are beyond our control, that are beyond the scope and span of our days, the legacy that lives on, the love that's implanted in you, blessings that are yet to unfold, that he could not know, that you do not know, that will yet unfold, and you can look back and say, yes, that came from then, that came from him. So wish you many, many sweet blessings in the years to come. And may the togetherness that you show in this beautiful picture from the 90th birthday at Thanksgiving, and that you're living right now, continue to go forward and carry on in the days and years to come. We turn to the closing prayers, to the El Malei Rachamim, which you can find in the handouts beneath the 23rd Psalm. I invite you to please rise as you're able for the El Malei, followed by the Kaddish. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Pamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechoino, Tachat Kanfei HaShechino, Im Kedoshim Otahirim, Kezohar Arakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Reb Mordechai ben Binyamin uMiriam, Shalach le'olamo. Lochein bal harachamim, yastirehu beseter kanafav le'olamim, veyitzror bitzror achayim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato, veyanuach veshalom al mishkavo, venomar amen. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence, among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament, and to the soul of Dr. Melvin Seglin, who has gone into eternity. Lord of mercy, bring him under the cover of thy wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may his repose be peace. And we say, Amen. Our final prayer is one to take with you, to say when you gather in the year ahead. We say it for the first time here. It's the Kaddish. It's called the Mourners' Kaddish because it's said by the mourners. although the Kaddish itself hasn't got one word of sadness or grief or mourning in it. Instead, it's a prayer of affirmations. It's a very old Jewish prayer in an old Jewish language, Aramaic. It's a set of affirmations in the divine, in the great mystery, as perceived then. And I invite you to take in these words to affirm that which is true and enduring for you in this sacred, profound moment. So David and Susan will say Kaddish, and then I'll lead you in that. And everybody else, your job is to respond Amen. I invite you to call out Amen as loudly as you can, so we can hear the strength and beauty of your voices as a loving embrace. As you can see in the handout, the Amen appears 4 times. The Q is the word ve'imru, which means just simply say. I say ve'imru, you respond Amen. To take the guesswork out of it, I will raise my hand as we approach each of the Amens. So you can follow the handout, my hand or both, but please come back with those Amens. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, be'alma divara chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv ve'imru, Amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach le'alam u'le'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha berichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma ve'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, Amen. This concludes our service.
Again, friends, this does conclude our services. Everyone is welcome to join the family at the Mather, and you're welcome to depart the chapel when you're ready. Thank you again for your attendance.